This is about promoting the country's peaceful transition to rule of law by improving public access to information. It sounds like Vikes, but this time in Somalia. Not more than 4 years that Vikes decided to do something with journalism states in Somalia, and today we are counting more than 350 journalists who participated in learning new tools and techniques to improve their work. Let's have a look on a few questions about this. My name is Yuri Francis Mbabane. The project in Somalia aims to improve the proficiency of journalists and their scope of activity and safety. We already know how critical security is in Somalia due to different elements that have stakes in Somalia conflict. So obvious, this work is not easy for Vikes. That's why, in this show, we decided to discuss this subject with an expert. Peik Johnson is a Finnish journalist who spent more than a decade in East Africa, Horn of Africa, and also in Nigeria, trying to implement Vikes project in every sector. He was there since the beginning of this project, and he tells us what they have been doing.
Now this is the 4th year Vikes has been implementing a media support program that has reached some 400 journalists in different parts of the country, training on basic journalism skills and journalism principles and ethics. At the same time, there's been training on freedom of expression and media rights to government officials and security officials such as the police, both in Mogadishu and then in the northern part of the country in Somaliland, which has declared itself independent, but it is still this independence has not been recognized by other countries. Vikes has also constructed the first multi-camera television studio at the national broadcaster, the Somali National Television, and provided in-house training several times on how to improve the level of their news inserts and how to make better discussion programs. We've also had some specific trainings with women journalists, but I think this is basically what we've been doing in Somalia.
According to Committee to Protect Journalists, Somalia has lost 62 journalists killed since 1992. Most of them were killed during these recent years. One of the most interesting points of this project is how Vikes addresses issues regarding security, putting much effort to training not only journalists but also law enforcement officers about the law, but also other things in a situation of war and conflict like in Somalia.
Well, it's very important for the police to know the law and to follow the law and to also know the rights of media, rights of journalists. And at the same time, it's very important for the media to know the limits of the freedom of expression and to know that together with the freedom comes the responsibilities. You are not supposed to use your freedom to tell bad things about other people or to report in a very biased way that you are not explaining the full truth, or you are not supposed to endanger the the public security. We had several of these trainings bringing together both the police, judiciary, and journalists. And for example, in Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland, it was the first time that you had these three groups getting together into one seminar. And this is a start of bridge building through these different parts. And you cannot expect that you would have a functioning, well-functioning society with freedom of expression without taking into consideration the rest of the society. In this case, the security and government officers. So it's been a learning process on both sides. Journalists have learned to report more ethically. They've learned about what not to do, for example, in a situation of where a bomb attack has occurred. They've learned how to minimize the risks in their own reporting, and the police has widened their understanding of media rights and actually how they, in very specific situations, how they should protect the media, which is doing their job, and not consider them as a threat. First of all, Somalia is still recovering from a civil war and a situation where the country was for more than 20 years without a functioning government. So this means that the whole society is still in many ways in a chaotic situation. Now the media is just one part of this, and there's a lot of women journalists in the profession, but one can say that the mainstream media in Somalia is very male dominated. Women journalists are discriminated and exploited in many ways. They don't get the same salaries as their male counterparts. Sometimes they would have to have long periods of internship without pay. There's trouble with having maternity leave, and then you would have quite often in the private media you would have this sexual harassment that in order to secure the job, one of the bosses could ask the women to give some sexual services. Women journalists are not allowed to report about hard news, but usually more about family issues, and quite often women journalists are news presenters. They don't necessarily write those news, but they read the news, because women voices are needed and women faces are needed in the television screen. Women journalists are not very well organized. They are divided into several smaller groups which are competing with each other, and this is also one obstacle that getting together the women journalists from the different groups, if they would be united, they would be in a better position to fight for their rights and both monitor any problems that have been happening in the workplaces and also campaign for better rights. I would have to add that when we are implementing the trainings and the project in Somalia, we are always working together, like Vikes is working always together with local partners. So we work together with the local journalist unions, the National Union of Somali Journalists being the biggest one, and then of course with the Somali National Television, which is our partner. And in all our trainings we have diaspora Somalians, Finnish Somalians, very closely involved. So we would not, this helps us very much to have a cultural understanding of the environment where we are operating. We have organized special trainings for women journalists, and then we also have a quota. We wish that at least 1/3 of participants in every training would be women, and usually there's been a bit more than this 1/3. About 1/3 of Somali journalists are women, so that is it would be fair representation in that sense. When we applied for further funds from the Finnish government, we actually, part of the proposal was to have more specific trainings for women journalists in southern central Somalia, in Puntland, and then also in Somaliland. But due to the government development budget cuts, we actually received for this continuation project just a fraction of what we applied for. So the specific women journalist trainings were part of many other proposed trainings that had to be reduced. Now at the same time I can say that we are in the process. We have applied for funds for journalism training from the European Union, and in that proposal we are suggesting to have specific women journalist trainings conducted by Finnish and Somali women journalists only, so that there will be only women trainers working together with women journalists, and that is supposed to these specific trainings should target some 60 women journalists in Mogadishu and elsewhere in the country, in addition to other trainings that should target some hundreds of women. I can say about figures that about 400 journalists have taken part in the journalist trainings within the current Vikes program, and about 120 of them have been women. Now in the case of Somalia, we have actually two kind of interventions. One is this one-time trainings, which are more like eye-openers. People come together, journalists come together from different areas for a few days. They network, they share ideas, they learn, they discuss and debate. We have role plays, we have different kind of participatory approaches to motivate them. And after these few days, it's like a boost for them. You can immediately see how their self-confidence, how their professional self-esteem is improving, and this would help them very much when they go back to their workplaces with professional confidence to do their work more professionally and keeping very much in mind the professional ethics. Then you have the other kind of intervention would be trainings which you are doing in-house, like what we have been doing in Tanzania at the community radio station Jami FM, or then in Somalia at the Somali National Television, where the training is done in-house and you always have to come with follow-ups and continuation of the training. It is only the next time that the trainer comes and sees what developments have been happening meanwhile, and to be able also to find the gaps that still would need to be filled with follow-up trainings. So there's these two kind of options. There's not the possibility to for a small organization like Vikes to be constantly at every media house in Somalia or Tanzania, and it's not the purpose. But there's two ways of initiating the training. One is like a short time boost with the training, which would put much energy into the participants, and hopefully will continue. And then the other part, which is done in-house, where you will see the results and you would come back and work on such sectors that have not been covered enough. Our experience from the journalist trainings, both in Tanzania and also in Somalia, is that the knowledge and skills that they gain from the training, they are usually sharing them very widely within the media houses where they work, or in the journalism schools where they work. And this means that it would not be, the knowledge and the skills would not be spoiled, but they would remain there. Personally, I have very little experience of people dropping out of the profession after that they would have been taken part in long-term training. This is always a risk that one has to have in the mind, but it is a risk that you should mitigate already in the selection process. That you should see that the people that you are going to train, that you would select such people which are motivated and have the intensive to remain in the workplace and in the sector. I know from Tanzania, from the Jamii FM radio station, one of the best female radio producers in the beginning of the project, already years before the radio station itself was broadcasting on air. One of the best female journalists, she got married, and then after that her husband did not want her to continue with the community media work anymore. Now that the radio station has launched more than half a year ago, and it is on air, I know that the responsible people from Jamii FM, they are contacting this cadre to ask that can she come back. They are contacting the husband to ask if she can come back to the radio station. And I don't know the exact situation, but it was promising. It might be that she would come back. Now she has, I think, 2 small children, but she could at least part-time work at the radio station. The same situations might occur and surely have occurred also in Somalia, where the journalists are usually young and they are still searching for opportunities. I know that some journalists who have taken part in our trainings, they've left the country for greener pastures somewhere else, or because of their own security, that they could not continue working as journalists in the country. They had to flee flee from Somalia and apply for a safe stay somewhere else. With young women, there is a challenge that when they get married, they might not continue with the profession.
I asked Peik to illustrate in 4 words his experience.
Better journalist with colleagues.
And he also told me what he learned from this kind of work, done together with Vikes for more than 10 years.
I've learned so much. I have become a better journalist in many senses. Of course, I've learned how how to run this kind of projects. I've learned to avoid mistakes that have been done in previous stages of some previous projects. But personally, as a journalist, I'm learning every day. I've been traveling to Tanzania, Nigeria, and Somalia several times per year, and every time I come back, I can say that I've learned much, and the own journalistic stories that I'm doing have surely improved because of these experiences. This is also something that should be remembered when, for example, the government makes drastic changes in the amount of the development budget. That you would also have a considerable number of experts in Finland who have gained from these projects. It's not that there would be resources that would just have been transferred to another countries, but a big share of them goes actually to Finnish experts. In our case, experts in different kind of media sectors, both technical staff and producers and journalists, and this is an investment also to our own sector. We would have more skilled people who would be producing even better journalism at our end.